California, the late 1960s. The air is thick with the promise of change, and the streets pulse with the energy of a generation determined to reshape the world. In cities like San Francisco, the counterculture movement is in full bloom. Flower children gather in Golden Gate Park, music drifts from open windows, and the ideals of peace and love seem to hang in the golden sunlight. But beneath this vibrant surface, a shadow was about to fall over the Golden State. A darkness that would seep into the hearts of its citizens, shattering the illusion of safety and innocence. The era of free love and optimism was about to be interrupted by a series of chilling events that would leave an unsolved mystery lingering for decades. This is the story of the Zodiac Killer, a phantom who haunted California's nights, slipping through the fog and shadows, leaving a trail of blood and fear in his wake. He was more than just a murderer, he was a specter, a name that would come to symbolize terror and uncertainty. His hunting ground was the sun-drenched streets and lovers' lanes of the Bay Area, places once filled with laughter and romance. His victims were often young couples, their lives brutally cut short in moments of horror that seemed to come from nowhere. The randomness of his attacks only deepened the fear. No one knew who might be next. But the Zodiac Killer wasn't content with just murder. He craved attention, notoriety, and the power to manipulate an entire city's sense of security. He wanted to be seen, to be feared, to be talked about in every home and on every street corner. He wanted the world to know his name, even if it was a name he invented. Through a series of taunting letters and cryptic messages, he communicated with the authorities, the press, and the public. Each letter was a calculated move in a twisted game designed to provoke fear and confusion, and to keep his identity shrouded in mystery. These weren't the ramblings of a madman, but carefully crafted puzzles filled with codes and ciphers. Each message was a macabre challenge to the authorities, daring them to catch him, to break his code, to understand the mind behind the mask. The ciphers became infamous, drawing amateur and professional codebreakers alike into the hunt for answers. His motive remained as elusive as his identity. Was it the thrill of the kill, a desire to instill terror, or something even more sinister, something hidden deep within the twisted labyrinth of his mind? Theories abounded, but the truth remained just out of reach, fueling endless speculation and fear. Whatever his reasons, the Zodiac Killer became a terrifying enigma, his name whispered in hushed tones, a specter haunting the dreams of a generation. The fear he inspired changed the way people lived, casting a long shadow over the Golden State, a shadow that to this day has never fully lifted. The first confirmed victims of the Zodiac Killer were David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, two high school sweethearts who had been looking forward to a quiet evening together. They parked their car on a secluded lover's lane in Benicia, a spot popular with young couples seeking privacy. The air was thick with anticipation and the innocence of youth, but beneath the surface a sense of unease lingered, a feeling that something was not quite right. It was December 20th, 1968, a cold winter night that seemed to stretch on forever. The only sounds were the distant hum of traffic and the occasional rustle of wind through the trees. Suddenly, gunshots shattered the quiet, their echoes swallowed by the darkness. In a matter of moments, the peaceful night was transformed into a scene of terror and confusion, as the couple's lives were violently cut short. The next morning, as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, their bodies were discovered by a passing motorist. The dreams and hopes of two young people were extinguished in a senseless act of violence that left the community reeling. The police arrived to a scene of heartbreak and confusion, struggling to make sense of the brutality that had unfolded on that lonely stretch of road. Months later, the nightmare returned. Another couple, Darlene Farron and Mike Mageau, were attacked while sitting in a parked car in Vallejo. The attack was sudden and brutal, echoing the earlier crime. This time, however, there was a survivor, Mike Mageau, who, despite his injuries, would become a crucial witness in the unfolding investigation. Mageau, though shot multiple times and gravely wounded, managed to cling to life long enough to provide the police with a description of the attacker. He described a heavyset man, his face obscured by a strange hooded costume, moving with chilling purpose. Mago's account gave investigators their first real glimpse into the mind of the killer, a man who seemed to relish the fear he inspired. The killer, emboldened by his ability to evade capture, began to taunt the police and the public. He sent a chilling letter to local newspapers and law enforcement, boasting of his crimes and demanding attention. The letter was filled with cryptic messages and ciphers, and signed with a symbol that would become infamous, a cross circle, the mark of the Zodiac. This was not just a murderer, but a manipulator, playing a deadly game with the city. Panic gripped the Bay Area as news of the Zodiac's letters and crimes spread. People were afraid to go out at night, to be alone, or even to trust their neighbors. The sense of safety that once defined these quiet communities was shattered, replaced by suspicion and fear. Parents kept their children close, and couples avoided the once popular lovers' lanes, haunted by the memory of what had happened there. The Zodiac, it seemed, could strike anywhere, anytime. The police, under immense pressure to catch the killer, found themselves chasing shadows. Every new attack brought more questions than answers, and the killer's taunting letters only deepened the mystery. The investigation grew in scale, with detectives working around the clock, but the Zodiac always seemed to be one step ahead. Every lead led to a dead end. Every clue seemed to evaporate like smoke. The Zodiac's deadly games had only just begun, leaving a trail of fear, confusion, and heartbreak in his wake. The city waited in dread, wondering when and where he would strike next, and whether anyone would ever be able to stop him. The Zodiac seemed to revel in the terror he was causing. He was not content with simply committing his crimes and fading into the shadows. Instead, he craved attention, notoriety, and the power that came from holding an entire region in suspense. Each new letter he sent was like a performance, designed to stoke fear and confusion, and to remind everyone that he was still out there, watching. His letters, often filled with misspellings and grammatical errors, were as perplexing as they were terrifying. Some believed these mistakes were intentional, a way to mock the police and the public, or perhaps to disguise his true level of education. Others wondered if they were clues, hidden in plain sight, meant to lead investigators down false trails. The letters were rambling, sometimes incoherent, but always chilling in their tone and intent. He claimed responsibility for the murders, threatened more attacks, and taunted the police with his seeming ability to evade capture. Each message was a challenge, a dare for law enforcement to try and catch him, and a warning to the public that no one was truly safe. The Zodiac seemed to enjoy the game, relishing the attention and the chaos he created with every new communication. He signed each letter with his signature symbol, the crossed circle, a chilling reminder of his deadly game. This symbol, simple yet ominous, became synonymous with fear in the Bay Area. It was a mark of ownership, a way for the Zodiac to claim his crimes and his correspondence, and to ensure that his presence was never forgotten. But what truly set the Zodiac apart from other killers were his codes and ciphers. He sent several to newspapers, challenging the public to decipher them. These ciphers were not just puzzles, they were threats, promises, and boasts, all wrapped in cryptic symbols. The Zodiac demanded that his ciphers be published on the front pages, threatening further violence if his demands were not met. The media, caught between public safety and the desire for sensational stories, often complied, further amplifying the Zodiac's reach. He claimed they held the key to his identity. Some of these codes were simple substitution ciphers, easily cracked by amateur cryptographers. In one case, a school teacher and his wife managed to break the first cipher, revealing a disturbing message about killing for pleasure. Yet, even these solved ciphers left more questions than answers, as the Zodiac continued to hint that his true name was hidden somewhere in the unsolved codes. Others proved to be much more complex, resisting all attempts at decryption. The most famous of these, known as the 340 cipher due to its 340 characters, remained unsolved for decades. Professional cryptographers, amateur sleuths, and even intelligence agencies tried their hand at cracking the code, but the Zodiac's puzzle seemed impenetrable. The mystery of the ciphers became almost as famous as the murders themselves, drawing in a new generation of codebreakers year after year. It was finally cracked in 2020 by a team of amateur codebreakers, but it did not reveal the killer's identity as the Zodiac had promised. Instead, the decrypted message was another taunt, a rambling declaration that he was not afraid of the gas chamber and that he would continue his spree. The solution was both a triumph and a disappointment, as the world realized that the Zodiac had once again managed to keep his secrets hidden. Instead, it contained more taunts and ramblings, further solidifying the Zodiac's image as a master manipulator, a puppeteer pulling the strings of fear and fascination. To this day, some of his ciphers remain unsolved, and the true meaning behind his cryptic messages continues to haunt both investigators and the public. The Zodiac's legacy is not just one of violence but of mystery, a puzzle that may never be fully solved. The investigation into the Zodiac Killer became one of the most intensive in American history. Law enforcement agencies across California poured resources into the case, desperate to stop the killer and bring him to justice. Detectives worked tirelessly, chasing down every lead, interviewing countless witnesses, and painstakingly piecing together the fragments of the Zodiac's cryptic communications. The pressure was immense. The public, gripped by fear and fueled by sensationalized media coverage, demanded answers. The police, however, were always one step behind, always reacting to the Zodiac's moves instead of anticipating them. The killer seemed to disappear into thin air after each attack, leaving behind only his chilling letters and the lingering scent of fear. Despite their best efforts, the case went cold. Years turned into decades, and the Zodiac Killer faded into legend, a ghost story whispered around campfires and recounted in true crime documentaries. The lack of a conclusion, the unanswered questions, only served to further fuel the public's fascination with the case.